welcome to Down the Road with me, Joel Heitkamp. Every now and then I do a radio talk show, and I think that's how I came to be on Beck News. I appreciate the opportunity that Beck gave me to do this. Every now and then there's going to be something that happens on my radio show that I want to share with the viewers on Beck as well. Chet Pollert is in the middle of a hurricane here. He's in the eye of the hurricane. And Chet Pollert is state majority leader in North Dakota's House. I've known Chet, known him for a long time. I served with him in the North Dakota legislature. He's a good and he's a decent man. And I have no doubt he's going to try to do what's right and do his best. That being said, he's got a caucus member that he is called upon to resign. That's not the norm. I don't know that that's happened before, but I do know this. Luke Simons is a test for Chet Pollert. I asked him on my radio show. He said yes, and here's what we discussed.
So why? Why did you call for the resignation?
You know, when there was the open records requests, I had probably had 3 or 4 incidences where we had to have a meeting with Representative Simons, and then I would have someone in the room as well and talk to him about how we thought his comments or his behavior was inappropriate, and at times that he needed to apologize to these people, and then we'd follow it up with more meetings if needed to.
And apparently that didn't work. I mean, was this happening before your time in leadership? Because I'm getting a whole bunch of messages about that, Chet. And
Joel, you know, before I was the elected leader, I can't comment about that because I have no idea. You know, I'm probably one of the most boring people in the world, Joel, and I don't go out and do these circles and such as that. And if that's going on, so maybe I'm too naive, but I wasn't aware of that. And that's not an excuse. I just wasn't until it came forward when I became majority leader. And when that happened, then I wanted to have meetings, whether it was with legislative council, also with another legislator, or with Representative Simons. Those meetings happened.
So when you investigated this, it comes down to this. Do you believe those individuals that made these accusations, or do you believe Representative Simons? It really comes down to that.
I think, Joel, what it comes down to is behavior of legislators, whether it's dealing with the public, whether it's dealing with lobbyists, or whether it's dealing with citizens too as well. And there's a pattern I feel that has made people uncomfortable.
So, again, I will say this, though, Chet. The individuals that made these claims, I'm asking you, as somebody who investigated this, do you believe them?
I know of the names that are out there, and yes.
Okay. So you called upon him to resign in your position of leadership, and your leadership team, Scott Lauser and Glenn Bosch did as well. They signed the letter. What's the next step? How do you go about getting him out of the legislature if he doesn't choose to resign?
You know, that's going to be up to the body of the House, not the Senate. And there's rules set in place constitution-wise of whether we meet as a committee as a whole and how we want to go forward with this. And I'll reiterate, and this is my belief, this is not a criminal proceeding. This is the behaviors of how legislators are out there in public. And I firmly believe that that behavior, after the incidences we've seen, after the open market, not open market, open records request, that I think it's behavior that's unacceptable and should not be what the legislature represents.
Has Representative Simons contacted you?
When we came forward and calling for his resignation, myself, Representative Lauser, and Representative Bosch tried to get a hold of Simons. Representative Simons answered the phone call, but he said he did not want to speak unless he had a lawyer present.
Okay, so Representative Simons, when you take that a step further, it's going to come down, and this is where you're an expert. You know how to count noses. You know where the votes are. Do you have enough votes to convict? Because what's happening right now, or to impeach, because what's happening right now clearly is parts of your caucus are lining up against this call for resignation.
And, you know, Joel, the call for resignation is completely separate. I don't know if I would agree with you on the language of convict and impeach. I am specifically talking about a behavior that I feel is time to be checked, called in check, and that is not acceptable for us as a body.
Okay.
And as how we represent ourselves to the state of North Dakota.
On that, I agree with you 100%. But my point is, if he doesn't resign, then what steps do you as a leader take?
And Joel, actually, I'm going back to Bismarck early because of crossover, because I've got to make sure all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed, and what's going to come forward. We are in this process of gathering further information and what's going to be needed for us to go down certain paths. And that path could be a severe censure, or that path, it could be a light censure, which I definitely do not agree with. It's either a severe censure or it's expulsion. And right now, that's what I'm leaning towards is expulsion. So we'll have to see how that works its way forward here in the next couple of days.
So do you know where certain caucus members are? Because I can tell you where some of them are. And I think you're way ahead of me when it comes to that. Clearly, you've got a divided caucus when it comes to what you're having to do to deal with Representative Simons. I mean, how hard is it going to be to get through the body if you do have to vote to expel him, for expulsion?
Anything, Joel, that I deal with my caucus is so diverse with 80 members. I don't know if I got consensus on anything that comes forward right now. It doesn't matter if it's the budget or gun bills or anything. So it will be a difficult task, but I'm trying to get the information that we need from people. And of course, I've had discussions with some legislators that have had some problems. And so we want to make sure they're comfortable with coming forward. You know, so I've got to get that stuff gathered, and I don't have a lot of days left in order to do that, because I'm proud of them for coming forward, but they've got to feel confident because they've been used a little bit here.
So can I ask you this? The Legislative Council, in my time in there, was the most bipartisan group of people I could possibly have worked with. Just good, decent, hardworking. It didn't matter how ridiculous the bill was that you came up with or how much work it took. They were there, and they worked hard for you. I never could figure out their political parties, nor I never would have been able to figure out their political parties. We've got people out there attacking them now. We've got people out there saying that this is strictly partisan. What are your thoughts on that? To those individuals, we had a gentleman just call in, and apparently I missed it. I apologize. He threw out a name. I should have caught it. I didn't realize that was, I didn't catch the fact that he's using some of these victims as tools. And so, Charles, if you do that, don't ever call in again, because don't turn these individuals in and throw names out. It's incredibly inappropriate on your part, and I apologize for not catching it. But what do you tell the listening audience that right now the Simons supporters are saying that these people are all partisan and that the Legislative Council needs to get fired, which he's saying? I mean, what do you tell people?
Well, and Joel, I'm getting those type of phone calls and emails and all that kind of stuff to myself. Here's what I'll say about Legislative Council. And I have a working relationship. It's true, I'm chairman of legislative management. I feel that they're very professional. I feel I have a very good working relationship, and I hope they feel the same way of me. I have no problem talking to any of those folks on a personal basis, as well as when I see them and they're having to do their work. If you want to know the truth, there wouldn't be one of them, and that I haven't done it because I know I can't because of professionalism. I'd gladly have a beer or a Coke or a Mellow Yellow or a cup of coffee anytime with those folks. I trust them.
Chet, let me ask you this, because there's all types of people now saying that there should be a hearing. That, that Kathy Scraw from my home district is saying, well, there needs to be a hearing on this. How in the world can you hold a hearing where these victims have to come forth in a setting where the Kathy Scraws of the world get to attack them? And really that's what some of these folks are setting up to do. I mean, this isn't a criminal situation. This is basically an investigation into whether or not somebody has done something wrong in terms of their employment. I mean, do you or will you ever call for a hearing on this?
Joel, in order to have a hearings like some legislators are asking for, then you're going into a total different realm, and then you're getting into a criminal case. There's been no formal process to do a criminal case. Now, that doesn't say these folks haven't been treated correctly, because I believe they haven't, and so because of that, this is our way of going through, and the behavior part is the main part. If there's no formal complaint, how do you have a hearing on something like that? You're just going further than what is currently in there. If we do the right and bring forward a resolution, this stuff is going to come out. Now, not all of it, because some of it's pretty sensitive, but there will be enough out there for folks to make a judgment on behavior for the legislature.
If you go to the home base of the News and Views Network, you go to kfgo.com, you're going to see what was in that file. And you're going to see things that I think would make your choice very easy. And I'm talking to the listening audience. And so what I have to ask you, Leader Pollert, is there more? Are there things other than those documents that have been made public that the public doesn't know about?
Joe, I know there's stuff that's public out there. There are things that have been discussed out in the open. Now, if there's more, I will learn that probably in the next couple of days, but any more than what's been out there through email exchanges or anything like that, or the open records request, I'm not aware of that, but maybe this comes forward in the next couple of days.
You have caucus members themselves, and not to diminish the workers. I'm not trying to single out and say this group is more important than that group, but you have caucus members yourself that fall into the line of what people are complaining about here. Can they be used as part of the conversation with the rest of the caucus to turn this page and not have this all play out as a fight to basically define this session?
Regrettably, I don't want this to define the session. I think we're going to come out of this session, whether it's revenue pictures, whether it's dealing with the coal industry, our energy, and we're doing a lot of good. And if you think I'm really wild about my name as majority leader being out there to be involved in something that hasn't been done in over 100 years, that disturbs me as well, and I don't want to be known as going down in history as that either myself. So I think there's a lot of caucus members that won't agree with me and because I wouldn't want them to go from there, but just for their own sake.
So
I think we're doing a lot of good work, and I want us to be remembered for that. And right now, that's not happening.
So last one, Chet, I promise, so you can get back on the road here. And I want to thank you for coming on and addressing these issues. Did you act soon enough?
Joel, this happened to me about 30 years ago in the business that I used to run. And I had an employee that quit on me. And so I said, well, think about it over the weekend, and then we'll get back and talk later. And then I asked him to come back. And so then he did. Well, he ended up quitting 3 or 4 months later. You know, on the first time, Joel, shame on him. Second time, shame on me. But we're going through this the right way, I feel. And anytime there was someone came forward, we surely had a meeting with them. I would have a meeting with Representative Simons with someone else in the room saying this is inappropriate. You need to say sorry, and you need to have your actions back that up so we don't continually do this. And now it's past that.
Leader Pollert, thank you, sir. I do appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Joel.
Respect, innovation, trust, and excellence. These core values can be seen in every building built by Straightway Construction. In the community for over 15 years, Straightway Construction has become the premier construction company for commercial projects. From dirt to design and framing to finish, Straightway Construction is your #1 choice. You won't have to look far to find a project that has that Straightway touch. Call them today or go online to straightwayconstruction.com and let them make your vision a reality.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county. Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
There's nothing more important than family. And at Prairie Rose Family Dentists, we get it. That's why we have more locations, more dentists, specialists, extended hours, pediatric clinics, and even emergency appointments, so you can always be seen. Book your appointment today at prairierosedentist.com. Prairie Rose Family Dentists. We are family.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Pub 21, your one stop for fun, drinks, and food. Our spacious facility provides COVID-safe fun for you and all your friends. With nightly bingo and specials, you can be sure there's something to do for everyone. If you're staying in for the night, we've got you covered just across the way with Pub 21 Liquor. We have a wide variety of options, from wine to whiskey and everything in between. Stop in today at 1014 South 12th Street in Bismarck to see what all the buzz is about. You won't be disappointed.
Welcome back to Down the Road. You just heard from Chet Pollert, and I have to tell you a couple things stuck out to me in that interview. The one thing that he said was he doesn't want the good work done in this legislative session to be defined by what's happening now with Representative Simons. He's proud of the work of his caucus. He's proud of what they're doing to set policy for the state. Now, you know that Chet Pollert's a Republican and I'm a Democrat, and we may disagree on some of that policy, but it doesn't take away the fact that he's in a tough spot. He really is. And this is serious stuff. And it's not easy. Representative Brandy Pyle hails from District 22, and if you're wondering where that is, it's Castleton is home for her. Representative Pyle, good to have you on News and Views. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Your name showed up, obviously, in some of the open records. That was made public when it comes to Representative Simons. The big question that's happening now out there all across the state is what reaction is the Republican caucus going to have to what Leader Pollert has put out there, which is a call for resignation. What do you see happening, Representative?
From what I know, and I just drove in this morning, I was at home this morning preparing for my bill introductions this afternoon after floor. But there will be some type of committee and some discussion, and we will decide what will happen with regards to Representative Simons. So I'm not exactly sure. I'm not in the loop on that quite yet.
What about the caucus itself? I mean, you're a member of that. You know the members of it. And so, you know, do you see a divide happening here, a chasm happening here? Because there are some caucus members that have already come out publicly and basically feel this is a railroad job, that there needs to be further investigation, and that the leader shouldn't have come so far so fast as to call for a resignation. What do you see happening in the Republican caucus?
Well, we've been on break, so I haven't been in contact with many of them, but I do, you know, there's always a divide. There's a divide with any type of bill and policy. We do vote in unison on some issues, and other issues we don't. So it will just play out the way it needs to play out. I'm not going to speculate on what's going to happen. It'll just happen. But what I do know is what my interactions with Representative Simons I know are true, and I will always stand by the truth. And I think once that kind of fully comes out, people will see that it was very inappropriate, and we will move forward from there.
I want to go beyond that. I want to go beyond your specific circumstance. When you see all of the other, you know, and I really struggle using the word allegations. Facts I'm going to use, and that's my terminology. When you see all of the other facts that were placed into that file by Legislative Counsel, number one, did that surprise you? And number two, you know, speak to what it's like to be a woman and to have to come forward with this, if you would.
I knew that there was some sort of file, but when I read through all the documents, my stomach hurt for all those women to have to sit there through those types of conversations, and for a person just to say it and think it's funny, and there's no effect. I believe in free speech, but you're not free of the consequences of your words and actions. And as a woman, 99% of my work is just our work. We debate the bills, we argue, we have different points of view, and that's totally fine. And that's what I love about doing the work of the people out here, is making good policy. But this is distracting. This is not, this is never anything I thought would ever happen, nor would I ever thought I would have to stand up against somebody who has chosen to make such crude comments.
Have you made up your mind? Did your leader, Majority Leader Pollert, go too fast, too quick for you? Have you decided how you will vote if this issue is brought to the floor?
I have not decided. Just like any other bill and piece of legislation, you have to look at all of the facts, all points of view, everything, and kind of go from there. So I don't know what I'm going to do. So we'll just see.
I served with Representative Pollert. I know how conservative he is by his nature. I also know what a good and decent person he is. Yep. I know that. When he was elected leader of the House, I thought with someone with a supermajority, you can rule with a pretty heavy hand in terms of how my side of the aisle gets treated, and I think he's treated them very fair, even though he disagrees with most, if not all, of what they say. That being said, for him to have gotten to this point, for him to have called for that resignation, that's not his nature. No. And that brings up this question, which is, do you think there's more coming? Do you think that there's more that you don't know, or do you suspect is a better way of asking that question?
I don't know, but there is always there's always more. It's always hard to come forward. It's always hard to talk about what happened when it's a very, very uncomfortable situation and say, hey, this person did wrong, and talk about it. Is there more? Probably.
Well, I can tell you this. I got 5 granddaughters, and it's people like you that make a difference. You do, through the courage you've shown. And I know this isn't how you wanted to be remembered or be looked at in this legislative session. But, you know, on behalf of those 5 granddaughters, I want to say thank you for having the courage to do it.
Yep. And one other thing, Joel, is we're addressing the behavior within inside these sacred halls here at the Capitol. If he's different outside of these halls, that's a different person. But what we are addressing is specifically the inappropriate actions and behaviors here.
And I would add then to that this isn't a criminal issue. That isn't what you're looking at. You're looking at an issue in terms of the policies of how you deal with yourself inside those chambers. And so for those individuals who want a full trial, you know, that doesn't seem fair to me for people like you and others who have gone through this to have to stand as a witness at those trials. And I need to know how you feel about that.
I don't want to go through that. I want to address this issue and deal with it and then move forward and continue just to do my job.
Representative Pyle, thank you. Thank you for coming on down the road. When we come back, we're going to switch gears. We're going to talk to Congressman Kelly Armstrong. So stick around as we make this trek down the road.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
In southwestern and south central North Dakota, on any given day at any given moment, a Dakota Community Bank and Trust customer is logging in or signing on to do their online or mobile banking. We believe that community banking can blend both a past with down-home customer service in-house and a future with modern banking conveniences and technology for our customers anywhere, like here or here, all while honoring our long-standing tradition of community-first oriented banking here at Dakota Community Bank and Trust.
It's every American's right to bear arms. At Mandan Sporting Goods, we're here to help you support your Second Amendment rights, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whether you're looking for a pistol for personal defense or collector gun, we have the staff to help you. We also have the area's largest inventory of ammo and reloading supplies.
Mandan Sporting Goods, the area's local gun and ammo specialists.
Beck Communications is hiring. Beck Communications is seeking qualified candidates for plant technicians in our Wheatland, North Dakota location. Beck Communications is an equal opportunity employer. To view the job details, visit www.beck.coop. To apply, email your cover letter and resume to careers@bechtel.coop. Beck Communications, making connections that matter.
Ever been in a cave before?
It's our first time.
All right.
Where are you going?
I'll see you at the car! How will we? The car! Your offer has been accepted. Ever bought a house before?
It's our first time.
All right.
Where are you going?
I'll see you at the closing. But how will we? The closing!
The experienced professionals at Superior Glass provide residential and commercial glass installation and repair services in central and western North Dakota. Superior Glass is your source for stained glass projects, mirrors, windows, touchless, and automated entry solutions. Stop by and see us at 3323 East Broadway in Bismarck or call us at 701-258-5600. Superior Glass, where you get superior service for less. Bye for now.
Well, he's got a lot of people tugging at him right now, and that's Congressman Kelly Armstrong. He's going to join us in just a bit. Obviously, The big piece of the puzzle that's on the table is really about this COVID relief bill. Is it too big of a catch-all? Is there too much in it? Are we being hypocrites for the fact that, hey, we think there's too much in it, but yet there's enough in it for us? There's, there's some money for all of our farmers and ranchers and workers out there as well. So those are questions, obviously, I'm going to have for the Congressman. Let me give you my take right in the beginning. I don't believe minimum wage should be in the bill. I don't. I know my side of the aisle believes that minimum wage should be. I was kind of happy when the parliamentarian in the United States Senate said it has no role in the bill, which means that we're going to end up having a discussion, a full discussion, on a separate piece of legislation that specifically addresses minimum wage. That's a good thing. That's a good debate to have. Those are numbers that should be presented to the public. And when the public hears them, when they see them, it seems to me they're going to support a higher minimum wage. But it should happen in that form. It shouldn't get lumped into this so that it's a huge debate down the road forever. Now, that being said, I personally don't believe that it's wrong for one party to carry a piece of legislation through. If you're in the majority, you're in the majority. But minimum wage should not have been in this COVID relief bill. I was really happy to see that that's going to be separated out. We're joined by the Congressman now. Congressman Kelly Armstrong, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Thanks, Joel.
The COVID relief bill, you must get up in the morning and say, what's in it now? It's got to be a pretty big piece of legislation.
Yeah, so, I mean, and I want to be clear about this. Like, even in the first two packages that came out, I mean, there's things that, like, under any normal circumstances, I wouldn't have voted for. But when you're walking in on the front end of what we were facing a year ago, you do it because there's nobody listening to this that cares about my ideological principle when we're walking into something, right? I think my biggest problem with how we've done it a year in is there was no effort to target it. And there was, I mean, I will also say with all the kicking, fighting, and rhetoric that went around, we managed to get 2 bipartisan bills through both chambers of Congress. And that gave me hope. Obviously, that hasn't been the case on the last one. And I mean, there are just very different things, and more so too, but I also have to say, they didn't do anything, we didn't do anything, because I'm a part of this mess, to really try and target where the relief needed to go.
Well, Majority Leader McConnell over in the Senate said that the number 600 was enough, that is the amount that should go out to every citizen under a certain amount of income. And so you've got families that if the individual makes $70,000 or is it $75,000, you can correct me on that, $1,000 or less, they qualify for what now is $2,000. And if the family itself makes $140,000 or $150,000 or less, then they qualify for $2,000 and every member of that family. So you could have a family of 4 and you can do the math of exactly what you'd be getting there. So is that too much?
I think so. And by the way, even when under President Trump at the end of last Congress, I voted against the $2,000 then too, because I mean, there's ways to do this, right? And there's a different scenario. I mean, there are people that have not, I mean, you always need a bright line. That's how government works. But there's people that make just under that haven't missed a paycheck in a year. I mean, there are people that exist like that. There are ways to target this in a way that it gets it to where people need it. And we don't do that. We just blanket it across the whole thing. That made sense in March of 2020. That does not make sense in March of 2021. It just doesn't.
But there's 2 reasons for it, obviously, right? Number one is to get people healthy if they were unemployed, which is a good point on your part. Many people didn't miss a paycheck. The other reason is to inject money into the economy, to jumpstart the economy. Is the latter worthy of the $2,000?
Well, I don't think so when we start seeing some of the data that's coming out across the states. You know, the states haven't taken, I mean, in a lot of ways, haven't taken as much hits. But, I mean, the way to do this, and this is the part, and I'm not sure the 600 was the right number. I mean, I think there are people like me that would have supported more than that. But I'm going to give you an example. And one of the great things that's come out of the last year, and there aren't many, is telehealth, right? Everybody in the supply chain of telehealth, every stakeholder understands that this is something that has gone on really, really well. So we're in the Energy and Commerce Committee marking up this bill. And every member, Democrat and Republican, it says exactly that. We offer a bill to make some of the telehealth regulations permanent. And then every single Democrat votes against something they say they should do. So we have something that works, that's something that can help with the medical side of it. And everybody agrees that it is actually doing what it's supposed to do, but we can't put it into the bill. And that's the kind of relationships that we don't have. So, I mean, stimulating the economy with $1,900 checks to that many people in a non-targeted fashion, I think the better way to stimulate the economy is to get the vaccine out and get schools open, if you want my honest answer.
So, you know, are we being hypocrites in this sense? And I'm going to give you a scenario because I talked to this.
Well, you're a radio host and I'm a politician. We probably have been hypocrites before.
I like to think your side has been more, but hey, you're probably right. Let me throw this at you though. I've got a individual I know that farms. He farms 2,500 acres of land a year. Between all the different federal programs that he had prior to COVID and going into this, he got about $130,000 of revenue brought in from those different programs. You know the ones. We can start using acronyms all we want. Then you add in the PPP that he got. He went well over $200,000, and that's in money that he didn't have to pay back. This bill includes basically over $200,000 more for him at a time that soybeans are about $13 a bushel. And so, you know, are we sitting here talking about the individual that makes under 70K and saying, well, he doesn't need it, while many, and this is where I bring up hypocrisy, while many of those farmers that you and I are talking about and you and I support are cleaning house when it comes to these bills?
Yeah, so I read something this morning that I think is actually good, particularly if you like the family farm. The money related to this has been dispersed significantly wider through the farm economy than even a lot of the programs you and I are that we're talking about. But yeah, and I think that's probably my biggest philosophical frustration with this whole thing. When we did this a year ago, you had two choices. You could do it targeted and you could do it really well, or you could do it quickly. And our economy needed triage. I mean, and our citizens needed triage. Our people needed it because, I mean, nobody knew what was going on. And basically the government asked everybody to stop participating in the economy. And that's what happened a year ago. We didn't, that's not the same here. And that's what I'm saying. When these programs aren't targeted and it's just blanketing money throughout the entire system, whether that's where it should be or where it shouldn't be, that's just not something I'm comfortable supporting. And that's before we get into other things that are put into the bill that absolutely have nothing to do with COVID.
And I agree with you on that. The high price tag when it comes to this bill is astounding to me. It doesn't need to be that big.
Yeah, but I would also say some of the real egregious things in there aren't that much money, right? Like we will make hay over the fact that I'm about to say $140 million isn't a lot of money, but it's not in a $1.9 trillion program. It's just not. But the things they go to it doesn't help with our relationship with our constituents.
But I go back in the short period of time I have left, Congressman. I know you got a tight schedule, but I go back to the scenario of that farmer. You know, it seems like we in the Midwest want to gloss over the fact that over the last two COVID-related bills, you know, this man's going to get anywhere close to $500,000. That's a whole lot more than the $200 or the $2,000 that we're talking about with the other individual. How do we justify that?
Well, that would be a question for somebody who's voting yes on the bill. I don't justify blanket relief for anybody, my farmers or anybody else. This is supposed to get you through what has been a terrible, terrible time. And it doesn't matter if it's a $1,400 check or a new and unique program. If we are doing this in a way that, by the way, anytime we do a large-scale federal program, there's going to be inequities. There always are. But we just haven't been smart about how we approach this. And I really believe that, both on the regulatory side and the financial side.
As this bill passes the Senate, do you have another shot at it? Does it come back to you? Because it's a different version now than what it was.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I can't. I mean, the minimum wage fight with progressives in the House could get interesting, but I guess my guess is we'll have another vote on it on Monday. That would be my guess. Tuesday at the latest.
And what happens in that vote?
It'll pass.
Okay.
I mean, say whatever you want about Speaker Pelosi, and I could criticize a lot. She's pretty good at making sure what her priorities get through the House floor.
As any speaker I've ever seen is. Congressman, thank you. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe.
Congressman Kelly Armstrong coming down the road with us. When we come back, I'll give you some thoughts. Texas, our states that want to be completely free and separate, completely free and separate. We'll talk about it when we head on down the road.
Howdy, folks. It's a Caroline Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Boston breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at our salad bar. Sink your teeth into our famous Caroline burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spoon-rattling pie with a combo roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Since opening in Hebron in 1940, Dakota Community Bank and Trust has been your hometown bank. Our mission has been to provide modern banking convenience with old-fashioned hometown service. We've grown with the communities we serve through year-round events, countless sponsorships, and nearly 7,000 hours of volunteering each year. Learn more about our 80-year history at dakotacommunitybank.com.
Respect, innovation, trust, and excellence. These core values can be seen in every building built by Straightway Construction. In the community for over 15 years, Straightway Construction has become the premier construction company for commercial projects. From dirt to design and framing to finish, Straightway Construction is your #1 choice. You won't have to look far to find a project that has that Straightway touch. Call them today or go online to straightwayconstruction.com and let them make your vision a reality.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
When you can't find answers to your recurring health challenges, it can feel like your health and your future are being held hostage. The Wellness Way is a network of health restoration clinics that think and act differently to solve the health challenges others can't. Here, we disrupt the standard approach to care through a combination of testing, individual plans, and one-on-one guidance, putting your health and your future where they belong, in your own hands.
I want to get a chance to visit with you about independence and true independence. Texas was its own country for a while, and then it joined the United States of America. Now, they pride themselves on being independent, on not needing the United States of America. I've been to Texas many times. Stop in any Texas saloon and start talking about the U.S. and the East Coast and the West Coast, and you're going to hear after a little while how they don't need us and they should have stayed their own country. Well, in many cases, in their policies, they have. And I'm going to use the electric grid as a perfect example of that. There's 3 grids in the United States of America, in continental United States of America. There's the Western grid that serves the Western states. Think of the Mississippi River as a barricade for that. And then there's the Eastern grid, which, of course, serves the eastern part of the United States. The grids themselves back up each other. So if you've got a problem in Nebraska, but you don't have a problem in North Dakota, we can send more power down to Nebraska. And so that's important to remember. It's basically something that helps all of us, and it's a great big warm insurance blanket when things like what happened in Texas happen. Okay, well, Texas is its own power grid, and it didn't want to be regulated. Didn't want to be regulated at all. In fact, it wanted private business in the spirit of Texas, in the spirit of independence, in the spirit of anti-government to just be on its own. If you want the product, buy the product, and the product comes from private industry. Well, what happened? Private industry didn't invest in the product. You can sit there and criticize green energy all you want. It wasn't green energy. This time of year in Texas, wind power is anywhere from 5 to 7% of their load. And of course, they didn't invest in that like we do here in North Dakota to make sure the towers don't freeze up. So, and by the way, freezing in Texas isn't some big surprise. The extent of the frost, that's a whole another issue we can talk about. But it's not the first time they ever would have seen snow in Texas. Now, take that a step further. These same companies didn't upkeep the grid at all. They just took the profits because you know what? There was nobody ever looking over their shoulder. So what's happened? What's happened since this great big mess that people who govern and are in government in Texas created? Well, here's what's happened. We're sitting there right now with people getting power bills in Texas that are through the roof. A modest family that I know in Texas just received last month a $1,900 electric bill. And their electric bill usually is around $150 a month. Now, you tell me, if you're a family living on a tight budget, how are you going to come up with that $1,900 to pay that electric bill? You're not. Then you look at one of the largest of the power companies that is providing power to this grid, and they filed bankruptcy. So who do you go after? I mean, get it down as basic as the meat in that freezer that you lost. Who do you go after? What do you do? Who's going to fix this grid? Here we go, back to the area of independence. Texas always brags it's a rich state. Well, should they have to prove it's a rich state? Many of the people that are watching us as we go down the road right now don't live in Texas. In fact, most of you don't. Should you have to open your wallet and give money to Texas to clean up its mess? Now understand this, the leaders of Texas, Ted Cruz being one of those examples, would not vote to help people who got hit with Hurricane Sandy. When it wiped out New Jersey, he would not do it. Nope, 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 nope. It's your own mess. You can fix it locally. That makes it pretty easy for me. If I was the Kelly Armstrong that you just saw, or if I was the John Hoeven or Kevin Kramer or John Thune or Mike Rounds, or pick them. Pick any one of the people that are watching us right, or that are part of who's watching right now. John Tester. I wouldn't do it. There's no way I'd do it. I'd look them right in the eye and say, you want to be so independent. You talk about how you don't need us. You created your own power grid. Why should I pick up your mess? You got oil, you got natural gas, you got all this money, but you don't like tax. That's the big thing, right? You don't like tax. Unless, of course, it's a sales tax that you can get all of us that come from the north and come down to watch the Bison win a national championship again in Frisco. You don't like tax. You don't like to tax yourself. Well, you got a mess, Texas. You got a real mess. And the leaders that you elected would rather be in Cancun and Florida now, I might add, than actually be in Texas trying to clean up that mess. There's one other issue that I wanted to bring up, which is President Biden announced yesterday that he feels they'll have enough vaccine, but by the end of May, anyone who wants to have been vaccinated will be vaccinated. Whew. Right? Right? He inherited an empty cupboard. He did. That cupboard was empty. The plans that were in place by the Trump administration for the distribution and supply of vaccine were terrible. They were absolutely terrible. Things were thrust upon states. Then they were told, you get this much, you get that much. There were games played with it. And quite frankly, it was a mess. It's going better now. It's going much better now. And so that needed to happen. And And I've said this. I don't want to do the I told you so, but it doesn't matter if you're Dr. Fauci, Joe Biden, or Donald Trump. I've said this all along. They're going to tell you it's going to take longer. And they're going to do that on purpose. It's the old take your kids on a drive. When are we going to get there? When are we going to get there? Well, we'll get there in about 4 hours. Well, you get there in 3. They're happy, but they quit looking at the clock, right? That's what's going on. It's good news. It's good news. This summer, you're not going to see anybody out on that pontoon or out on that Harley or just out for that walk in the neighborhood. You're not going to see them worrying about wearing a mask. You're not. You're going to see them living a normal life, and this economy is going to be clicking. And the quicker we can get those vaccines into people's arms, the better. The better. That's a big part of it. When we come back, some closing thoughts as we head on down the road.
There's nothing more important than family. And at Prairie Rose Family Dentists, we get it. That's why we have more locations, more dentists, specialists, extended hours, pediatric clinics, and even emergency appointments, so you can always be seen. Book your appointment today at prairierosedentist.com. Prairie Rose Family Dentists. We are family.
Deciding how to promote your business can be hard. Visit the professionals at Dakota Promotions and Printing and let them help you through your struggle. Dakota Promotions provides promotional items and apparel, from corporate gifts to team shirts and everything in between. With quick turnaround times and friendly service, they are your best choice. And best yet, you're shopping local. Visit them online at dakotapromo.com or stop in their showroom at 320 West Main in Mandan. Dakota Promotions, delivering promotions just for you.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county. Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
It's every American's right to bear arms. At Mandan Sporting Goods, we're here to help you support your Second Amendment rights, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whether you're looking for a pistol for personal defense or collector gun, we have the staff to help you. We also have the area's largest inventory of ammo and reloading supplies.
Mandan Sporting Goods, the area's local gun and ammo specialists.
Now is the best time to plan for your 2021 farm equipment needs. North Dakota-based Summers Manufacturing is currently offering early order savings. Take advantage of big savings on North America's broadest tillage line, including the Super Kohler Samurai and the innovative BRT Renegade, as well as the best built, best backed land rollers in the industry. Talk to your Summers dealer today or go to summersmfg.com to learn more about early order savings available on all Summers equipment.
These trips are fun. They really are. I hope you're enjoying them. Obviously, a whole new concept in what Beck is doing here. When they came and they knocked on my door and they said, you know what, would you be interested in doing this? Kind of scratched my head and said, I'm a radio guy. What am I going to say when I'm on TV? I like the fact that we're able to bring you guests from both sides of the aisle, and you find where we agree and where we disagree. I'm going to give you an example. Congressman Armstrong today, we agreed with on many of those issues. I think the COVID relief bill is too big. I think it's too big. I think there's too much fat in it, and some of that fat should be trimmed out. And I think some of that fat comes home to us. And I don't think we want to admit it. I don't. Because what you're going to hear from a number of farmers when it comes to the fat that they're about to get is you're going to hear them say, well, if I don't take it, somebody else will. Or if I don't take it, You got to understand, I won't be able to compete with the other farmers out there. I'm an independent businessman, and somebody else is going to have more money to pay that cash rent. Those are legitimate arguments, but you know what? I know people that won't take it. Few, but I know people that won't take it. I know more that set up their farming organization so that you've got a farmer farming with his 2 sons, and they set it up for a farmer, his wife, and his 2 sons. So now you got 4 farms, so you can get 4 different payments out of it. Nobody wants to admit that, but it's true. And so for the Congressman Armstrongs and the Senator Kramers and the Senator Hovens of the world who are constantly criticizing this bill, just be careful of that. Be careful of that, because every now and then there's a mirror I think we all have to look into. I think we do. And I think we need to be fair about that. We do, because you know what? We're pretty good at putting fat inside bills too. To me, the way we should have dealt with the COVID relief bill was, sure, to get money out to people that are having a hard time even breaking even. Focus on the unemployed. But infrastructure. That's where the money should have went. Roads, bridges, things communities need. Give money in infrastructure. That's what we did in the 1930s when this country was on its knees. Give money to infrastructure. Give it to that mom and pop who tried to keep the cafe open. I'm not sure we need to give it to somebody that can sell futures on their soybeans at about 12 bucks a bushel. But I'm also really sure that those individuals that are getting it aren't going to talk about it. You know what? It's been good riding with you folks. We'll see you down the trail. Tyler Axton is here tomorrow.